Welcome to Initial Reaction. I'm Nicholas Ivan Leidendorf Atreides. Often go by No Gravity. Alright, well, first, a few weeks ago, I was hearing a few people who had noticed a similarity between Bernie Sanders' campaign and Ron Paul. Both candidates were affiliated with, were outside the main two-party candidates. Ron Paul used to be a libertarian. Bernie Sanders is a Democratic Socialist. Though Bernie Sanders, he always caucused with the Democrats, he only joined the Democratic Party to run. Another similarity is that Ron Paul had raised a lot of money in a very short amount of time and got some media buzz because of it, you know, through small donations online. Bernie Sanders did the same thing this year. And both are underdog candidates with a message that resonates with, let's say, an activist audience. So I definitely see the similarities. There are some distinct differences, though, and some of them I'm amazed that the mainstream media have not picked up on. And besides running for different party primaries, which is actually very important, which I'll get to later, there are some key differences between Bernie Sanders' current campaign and the one Ron Paul ran in 2008. First one is, while they both have done well with small donations and grassroots campaigning, crowdsourcing, bandwidth, and just Facebook is way more developed than it was in 2008. People regularly raise millions of dollars for all sorts of things on Kickstarter. We have a much better understanding of how to do small donations and crowdsourcing, which in politics is called grassroots campaigning. So Bernie Sanders has the advantage of it being 8 years later. So that'll make a key difference in this campaign. Another one is, and also on that point, is bandwidth is better. So, you know, Ron Paul put up a video. I don't know how many people would watch it. YouTube was around, but like, bandwidth is so much better now, and not just from the home, but on phones. Bernie Sanders is going to have a much easier time getting his message out there through social media and everything because bandwidth is that much better. Like, people aren't going to lag out in the middle of videos. His message will be able to resonate more. Back in the day, you know, people are still transitioning between MySpace to Facebook. Now everybody and their mother and many people's grandmothers are on Facebook. It's a cultural norm now, where before it was like just getting out of the era when only college students were allowed to join Facebook. So the internet candidate is a totally different creature now than it was in 2008. I'll point out another similarity real quick. Neither candidate likes to sling mud. Ron Paul didn't really talk shit about other candidates. Bernie Sanders flat out refuses to. He's very careful not to say anything bad about other candidates. Okay, so now my other difference I want to get back to. Bernie Sanders is a senator, not a member of the House of Representatives. There's a couple key differences here. One is that some states have a lot of House members, including Texas, which is where Ron Paul's from. So there's like 400 and I want to say 438 off the top of my head. I could look this up, but I'm not going to. So there's a lot of House members out there, and only 2 senators per state. So senators have a lot more power. I've heard them referred to as the Millionaires Club. I don't know how much the salary difference is between the average senator and the average House member, but so senators are much more prominent. They have a lot more clout in Washington. So Bernie Sanders has had the prestige of being a senator. He's also been a mayor, so he's got executive experience, which is something that the Republicans like to harp on. Bernie Sanders definitely has, as a senator, has more clout. For example, like, he kind of got his name out there by doing a filibuster. Ron Paul could never do anything like that. The filibusters, they don't do those in the House of Representatives. So he's going to get a lot more momentum than Ron Paul did. And my next point is that polling. Bernie Sanders is polling way better than Ron Paul was at this point. He's got a lot more name recognition, which goes back to the senator thing. Bernie Sanders is polling pretty close to Hillary Clinton. He's within 10 points of her. He's within 10 points of her in 2 major places. Is New Hampshire, and 2 is Wisconsin. I don't know if there's a national poll yet. I haven't looked at that. But the reason I kind of stopped the presses at those and didn't look further is because these are 2 really important states. Wisconsin, very important Union state for Democrats. In fact, there's, I believe, 7 cities in Wisconsin named Union. So the fact that he's polling really high there in what's considered like a very archetypal Democrat state like Wisconsin is a very good sign. Points to how he's going to do in the general election. Now, New Hampshire is, Bernie Sanders is from Vermont, which gives him a lot more name recognition. When he ran for various offices, he would get radio play in New Hampshire because Vermont and all those New England states are tiny. So people in New Hampshire have a high name recognition with Bernie Sanders. And the thing that's important about New Hampshire is it's sort of a king-making state. Part of the reason Howard Dean didn't get the nomination was because coming out of Iowa, he wasn't able to transfer over to New Hampshire. I'd have to check, but I think John Kerry, I think he claimed New Hampshire because he's from New England also. But John McCain, he went from, like, everybody makes a big deal about Iowa because it's first. John McCain did crappy in Iowa, won New Hampshire, became the party nominee. So New Hampshire is a pretty influential state because it's the second one out, and it seems to be the one, you know, maybe nationally people don't know the candidates in Iowa much. Iowa has a weird... So Bernie Sanders is much closer to Hillary Clinton. He's got high name recognition from being a senator and being around. And the last major difference between Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul is that the Democratic Party is not a winner-take-all party like the Republicans are. Republicans, when you win a state, you basically get the Electoral College votes, and you move on to the next state. And they just count it up at the end. Now, the Democratic process is that the Democrats use what's called the delegate system, which means that candidates they can keep their votes and pass them on to other candidates. This is how actually Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton before. Barack Obama was pretty far behind in votes, but as other candidates left the election, they would give their votes that they got to Barack Obama. They'd give their delegates to Barack Obama. So Barack Obama had like 300 more delegates than Hillary Clinton did, and that's why he won. Well, some of those were actually Hillary delegates, but anyways, it's kind of confusing. But basically, in the Democratic primary, there's no such thing as throwing away your vote. If you vote for some weird, off-the-wall candidate that nobody's ever heard of, that candidate gives their delegates to one of the frontrunners. And so Bernie Sanders doesn't have to beat Hillary Clinton in votes. He just has to make sure that she has less than half the delegates. If she has less than half the delegates and gets the other candidates to swing their delegates to him, he can win. Now there are a couple things that have happened in the weeks since I've been kind of sitting on this. I recorded this and I didn't really like it or like the way it came out. I transitioned to a new computer that doesn't have the software I was using before. Some things that have come out since my first take on this is that it looks like the Democratic field is going to be really small. I guess not a lot of people want to run against Hillary this time around. So it's going to be harder for Bernie to win using this delegate maneuver that Obama used to beat Hillary. So that's going to be an issue for him. He does have some... so not having a bunch of candidates like, Obama first got his delegates from Kucinich and then later John Edwards, and, he's kind of able to snowball it with all the second, the C-listers and the B-listers. So Bernie Sanders isn't going to be able to do that as much. There's only like 2, maybe 3 other candidates. Another problem is this time last election cycle, they'd already had a debate. So it's going to be harder for Bernie to reach that non-internet base because they haven't had a debate yet. So these are some of the issues that are coming up. Also, Hillary Clinton's got more money. Demographically, the thing Bernie's got kind of going for him is that he's Jewish. That's going to help him in Florida, or at least a lot of this is sort of a perception of winning. Bernie Sanders has another difference, I would say, that Bernie Sanders has is that he has a perception of winning, which is important because if the media isn't disregarding you and all this, you're going to get more news coverage. So Bernie Sanders being Jewish, the way the media works, they're going to be like, oh, he can win in Florida. Florida is a pretty key state. So because they vote, I believe that Florida, they either vote on Super Tuesday or the week before Super Tuesday. I don't remember. All right, so this is a very exciting time for someone who is interested in breaking the gridlock in Washington, D.C. by getting new voices and changing the debate, because these guys, the powers that be, the people who are embedded in Washington, they've just been saying the same shit for 30 years. So, we're going to get a real shift in the dialogue when Bernie Sanders comes in. And especially the best thing about it, and it's one like that I've been harping on for years, is that if politicians would own a lot of this shit, there couldn't be negative campaigns run against them. And one of the things Republicans love to talk about calling people a socialist, and Bernie Sanders owns that shit. He's like, yeah, I'm a democratic socialist. You look at countries like, Sweden and all this, and they're doing very well, and we should try to be more like them. And so I'd like to see how this all shakes out. Hit me up with any questions or comments you have on this, because it is amazing how idiotic the mainstream media is. No one is talking about the issue of delegates. Maybe they don't want. I don't know. I've even commented on articles that were like a month ago or whatever, when I was first looking at this, where they were talking about it, and I was like, how are you ignoring the delegate issue? Though it might just be because there's so few Democrats running that it might not matter, because the ones that are running are polling really low, other than Bernie Sanders, and they don't seem to be very exciting candidates at all. So we'll see how it all shapes out, and hopefully Bernie Sanders will go for the win here. All right, until next time.